Hey everyone, welcome to Back to Holy Ourselves, a podcast about becoming more authentic in our faith, especially in relationship to sexuality and gender. And I'm really excited because I get to talk with a friend today, Emily Blaylock.
Hey,
Oh my gosh.
happy to be here
And you're here. Like, you're actually in the room with me.
in the room.
In the room, present
Mm-hmm.
and accounted for. And so this is like a new thing. We're in the living room of my house with a whole setup that none of you can see, but it's a setup. It took a moment to get it all done. This is why I need a podcasting studio.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to donate one, it would be welcome.
Well, I'm happy to chat in your living room. That
Thank you.
feels normal and
It feels like our friendship.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, so we're going to be talking about, I want to just kind of lay the framework for anyone. We are going to be talking about sexual violence, sexual assault. So we're going to have some like kind of fun, light aspects of our conversation, but there will be some heavier topics. So if that's, just want to give forewarning, that's going to be coming up in this conversation. And I'm really thankful for you for having this conversation with me. But before we get into like the really deep stuff, one question, just want people to be able to get to know you. So, okay, Emily.
Okay.
To help people get to know you, I know that you are a musician.
Yes.
So can you describe your life in 3 songs, or maybe 3 artists? If you had to use 3 songs or 3 artists to describe your life as a musician, maybe not as but since you're a musician,
right?
What would it be?
Okay, so immediately coming to mind, I am thinking of Billie Holiday.
Okay.
She has a song called Solitude, and it's like really sad.
Yeah.
But it like makes me like giddy. It makes me so happy. And
why does the sad song make you giddy?
I think that I write songs that have sad lyrics, but when I sing them, I feel so courageous, and I feel so like there's something like whimsical about saying it out loud, I guess. And like almost indulging in the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And also Billie Holiday was an out bisexual woman, and she was an advocate for queer rights in her own time, and I love knowing that. I love when artists that I connect to, or like theologians, I find out later that they are queer people.
Yeah.
That feels like really affirming in a
it kind of is like, oh, that's why I connected with them.
Yeah.
Like that's, or maybe a piece of why their stuff was so like impactful.
Yes. And the other artist is actually a supergroup, Boy Genius.
Okay.
And I'm a queer woman. I write indie girl music.
It's some good stuff, y'all. You need to check it out.
It's like kind of the basic answer to say Boy Genius, but it's 3 queer women songwriters. They all had their own careers, and they banded together like for friendship and like for joy and safety, because they wanted to make music together, and they wanted to tour together and not do it all on their own with like producers who are mean or anything. And I found that like the joy of it and the friendship of it so inspiring. So a couple of songs that I'll name: Solitude by Billie Holiday and True Blue by Boy Genius.
Okay, I love it.
Do you know that song?
I know the that one, yes. No, the first one you mentioned, I feel like I'm now going to have Solitude. I need to go listen to it. I wish we could like put it in. This is the thing I hate about the like laws of like how podcasting work. You can't
just like fade it in.
Depending on the podcast and depending on the context.
Mm-hmm.
So like in Becoming Whole, my miniseries, which by the way, y'all, if you listen to Becoming Whole, you actually got to hear a few of Emily's songs.
Yeah.
In I think episode 5, Bittermint. That like flowed so well.
What an
It just
honor.
was like great.
A few moments later.
Going through technical difficulties. Anyone who's followed my podcasting journey knows technical difficulties just like follow me like a plague constantly. Normally it doesn't involve me, but like my actual setup, but it's here everywhere.
Do they know
Um,
that you're a singer?
I don't know. Maybe.
Josh has an amazing voice. I
Oh,
got to
thank
hear him
you.
sing recently, and I was supposed to be singing harmonies with you, but I was so
Mm-hmm.
stunned by
Aw,
your voice. It literally stunned me. It was so beautiful.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, like I know I sing, but I, I, I feel like I have a normal voice.
No,
Ah!
no, you don't.
Yeah, I think the thing I've always struggled about is most of the time I've sung in churches,
Yeah.
and I personally feel like a lot of times male parts in worship songs are very high.
Mm-hmm.
So it always feels like I just don't have the range for stuff. But when I can find songs in my range or adjust them to be in my range,
Yeah.
I feel very confident.
Yeah.
I feel very good.
Good.
But yeah, that was fun. I loved doing that time. I loved, you guys don't know Ashley, but Ashley is one of the people on staff at our church. She'll be on here at some point. And her reaction that night was just
She was just
crazy.
shrieking.
Shrieking, recording it,
Yeah.
everything. Y'all, I thought it was hilarious. Well, okay, so within our friendship, I was trying to remember when we first met. Do you remember?
I think I remember. I think it was at a pizza place after story group.
Oh, Hot Pie.
Yeah.
It was at Hot Pie.
Yes. And I talked to
Okay.
Christian before I talked to you, I
Yeah.
think. And this was when I was still like first like coming out to people or
Mhm.
talking about my sexuality. And I knew I knew that Christian like was gay or knew gay people.
Yeah.
I don't know like how much I knew you, but
Uh-huh.
I talked to Christian. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm actually bisexual and I haven't told a lot of people. And I was like, wow, that was a really um that was like maybe a strange first interaction with someone.
No, I mean it was
in Hot Pie, you
yeah,
know, like
in Hot
just in the
Pie.
restaurant.
I don't know, when you're gay, I feel like after a while it just becomes yeah, someone
Yeah.
shared. But I
Yeah.
think it's also comforting coming into the church and then having a few people say, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
me too." And you're like, "Okay, great." Cuz I knew for us coming in it was like it was just like, "Oh, the gay couple is
Mhm.
here." Not
Mhm.
like that people were thinking that, but you just kind of get that feeling like, you're the gay couple.
And I
But
think it's like powerful, like the ripple effect
mhm.
of some people saying what's true.
2,000 years later.
Hopefully this is going to work. Um So, moving into your position,
Yeah.
you probably, everyone, you might have seen me at a small transition there, but we're just trying to figure out some technical stuff. Like I said, first time doing this, so we'll see. And who knows, you might just get the audio of it. You might get the video of this. I don't know. At the end of it. Um, can you, I guess, first of all, I'm going to transition to, can you tell us about your role at the
Yeah.
Palm Beach County Victim Services and the kind of situations your team supports?
I am an outreach coordinator for Palm Beach County Victim Services. It means that I'm out in the community and I talk to people about prevention and how to access help if they need it. The main crime types that we work with are sexual assault, domestic violence, stalking, DUI, and homicide. Like if a family member was murdered, we'll provide services to the family. But a lot of my prevention work and public education is around sexual violence and domestic violence. Those are the two largest areas that we work in. We work with the most amount of people. And it's a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah. Would there be anything about your job that maybe would surprise people or maybe
I think people think it's depressing. Like I explain that I work at a rape crisis center or something about violent crime, and they're like, ooh.
yeah, how do you like stay yeah.
Yeah, they're like, ooh. They like regret they asked, I think.
Mhm.
But people who work in like domestic violence shelters or in advocacy and abuse work. It's a really supportive community,
Yeah.
and people know how to like be lighthearted and have fun and support each other. I think that working towards a solution for a very real problem is not depressing. Um, I don't like watching a lot of like TV shows that are like really dark about not real things. But when we're working in reality, like I would rather know and be able to respond in some way that's effective and helpful than to pretend it's not happening at all. Does that make sense?
That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Like having to actually be exposed to the reality and rather than kind of living in a different world. But
Yeah.
yeah. And because then you're actually getting to help in it.
Yeah. It's like I live in this world. This is a
Mhm.
reality of this world. And I work for a place that has the opportunity to step in and support people like in the worst
Yeah.
times of their lives.
Yeah. Because I mean, I can also imagine there's also something different of, I mean, I know that kind of the SVU or like detective kind of more
Mhm.
work is another angle of it. And
Yeah.
there's probably benefits of that work, but you're not in this way of just like putting criminals behind you. Like you're helping
No.
victims.
Yeah. It's like rather straightforward that if someone comes to us asking for help, our focus is helping that person. We're not fact finders, and we don't tell them what to do. We support their choices. It's they say like put the survivor in the driver's seat. And so it's an honor to get to support someone and to help them restore their power and control over their life.
Was this an area you were looking to get into? Was this something you like fell into? And I guess if it was something you fell into, what was that like now to be in this area
Yeah.
of work?
It wasn't something I was looking for. I needed a job,
Yeah.
and I studied ministry and communications in college. And so the like communicator in me was drawn to this job because it's about like public awareness and communication. And also I think that studying ministry, I thought maybe I wanted to be a pastor. And
Well, that's what we're told ministry is. It's being a
yes,
pastor.
yeah, and like speaking to people, and I think that my journey through my educational experience in ministry
Yeah.
um really like shut down that dream for me. It was in one way like heartbreaking, but in the other way, I'm saying this in a weird way, but what I'm trying to say is that I think that my experience in college of trying to study ministry, dreaming of maybe becoming a pastor or some kind of leader in a church setting, I ended up spending a lot more time talking about gender and sexuality and human dignity in college than I did learning how to be a pastor. And the door was shut in my face a lot for my gender mostly in college. Like someone, a professor one time, I said that I wanted to work in this denomination, in this church, and he said, "Oh yeah, maybe you can be their secretary." And I was like, "What?
Okay.
I'm here. I'm like paying money to learn this practice in this field." And my
Not to
own
be a
professors
secretary.
like the the ceiling was low.
Yeah.
But I think in that I stumbled upon like advocacy and an interest in human rights and quality of life. And we're going to talk about some statistics later, but the numbers of the prevalence of sexual assault was echoed like in my close relationships in my friend group. And so this was something that I was aware. I learned a lot more once I started working in this field, but I was aware of how prevalent and devastating and overlooked sexual violence is in our culture. So the job came to me and ended up being, yeah,
And it is ministry.
yes,
It's like you are getting to be like this support to people in these
yeah,
really vulnerable spaces. And the fact that you got a degree in ministry leads us to our main conversation,
yeah.
which is sexual violence in religious spaces.
Hmm.
Kind of the trying to think of like the catalyst of this conversation was the panel that you invited me to be a part of, which
Hmm.
we're going to get in more detail about later, but it's a safe religious spaces panel, clergy and other professionals talking about sexual violence and support against sexual violence in religious spaces.
Hmm.
Um, and then I learned through this event that I didn't know that technically August is clergy sexual
Abuse.
awareness month,
Yeah.
which, I think it's really helpful to be able to know, wow, yeah, it's a space to talk about this.
Hmm.
So then I love that I got to come to you and be like, hey, you want to come on my new podcast and we can talk about it. So with that, can you tell us about this upcoming panel, kind of like the idea behind it and what led you to put it together? Like, what are you hoping from it?
So, what led me to put it together is that in my ministry education, the training that I got through, you know, the 4 years that I was studying that was a lot about gender separation, and a lot of like keeping women away from men in leadership in order to protect the reputation of male spiritual leaders.
Not even really to protect the women.
No, no,
Uh-huh.
it's like have a spotless reputation, and the
Yeah.
way that you do that is you stay out of elevators with women and really never give a woman the opportunity to falsely accuse you of being inappropriate or being violent. And I'm a bisexual person. Not only did that feel problematic, like as a woman who was trying to study a field and learn when I wasn't allowed to spend the time with my professors or pastors who were men, which was most of them, almost all of them were men. I wasn't allowed to spend the time with them that my male counterparts were as students, to learn like the trade, to learn like this field and how to be a successful ministry leader. And so that was a barrier for education, and that was problematic for me as a woman. But also, it didn't feel like a true solution, and we see it so often, either like in the news or through people's stories of I was sexually assaulted by the worship director at this church, and instead of accountability or response, that worship director like got like, politely moved to a different location. And we know with crimes like sexual violence, perpetrators tend to reoffend, and I think the Catholic Church was kind of a place where this was put on high
Oh yeah.
display.
And now the Southern Baptist Convention
Yeah.
kind of following suit with this like really major scandal of similarly.
Yeah, I remember them saying in a report, I think it's in the Southern Baptist
Mm-hmm.
report, well, you went looking for it, so you're gonna find it. Which, like, it says to people, don't look.
Yeah, just like ignore it.
Ignore it, and if it's being talked about, then the attention's gonna be on the person talking about it instead of the person who committed the crime.
Yeah. Well, and I think what's really hard about it is, oh gosh, there's just so many things, and I'm
Yeah.
so glad we're talking about it because there was even I was literally looking at the news yesterday. There was another case,
Yeah.
like high up. I don't remember what state it was in, but there was another case of a pastor, youth pastor or something,
Hmm.
found to have had these sexual relationships with teenagers and stuff.
Mhm.
And I know you're getting to then a whole nother level. I first of all want to go back to what you were saying about the gender
Yeah.
thing. Is that, yeah, one of the biggest problems I found with it is it's interesting when I've talked with pastors about the like Billy Graham rule.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, this rule of where he's not even gonna bill. If anyone's not aware, just Billy Graham had this really high standard. He wouldn't even have a TV in his hotel room, if I remember correctly.
Oh.
Basically, him or someone on his team would call ahead saying, "Hey, Billy Graham's going to be staying here. Can we have the TV removed?" Because he didn't even want to have a chance. He didn't even want to be accused of looking at porn, like everything. And so it's like, okay, I get you want to be held to a
That's
standard.
really intense.
But I think the hard part when it comes to relationships with women, there was almost a mistrust of women.
Oh, yeah.
In the way, because
Yes.
it wasn't just like like we said, it wasn't a protecting of women. It wasn't even like because I wasn't like the pastor was saying, I want to, mistreat a woman. Often it was a fear of them getting accused.
Yeah.
So you're seeing women as initiating as a threat, and you're coming at sexual violence from an initial suspicion of against the person who is reporting
Yes.
the crime.
Yeah.
Like it starts with that.
Yeah.
Place. And I get it in the sense of like, as me as a gay man and the whole reputation of pedophilia in the church, I have a rule. I don't help with children.
Yeah.
I just don't. I have no I have no I have no pedophile desire in my body.
Yeah.
And I love to work with kids. But it's just a general rule, even in our own church.
And
I
that
won't do
breaks
it.
my heart because like I know you.
Yeah.
And I know like it's really sad when people are kept out of certain roles that they're good at because of like the real threat of public perception.
Yeah. But I guess I bring that up, which I appreciate, and I receive that.
Yeah.
I receive that because it is true. It's sad that that's the reality. But I think that what I've taken from that is I feel for pastors with this desire to be it. I feel for this thing of like, hey, here's a common thing that occurs. I just don't want to put myself in the situation.
Yeah.
I want to have compassion towards that kind of feeling.
Yeah.
While also going, there has to be a better way.
Right.
That doesn't initiate from the suspicion.
Right. And I don't think, like you're saying, the intentions are always bad. I think that the people who are educating me about how to have appropriate relationships and to stay safe, to keep children safe, like they cared about that. But the way that they were equipped and trained was really flimsy and not truly helpful. So I'm really glad to bring together this panel of clergy, mental health professionals, and I feel like you cross so many spheres, like as a consultant and as someone who has like done deep diving on safety planning in church spaces, not only for queer people, but for everyone.
But I am also excited to bring in a little bit of understanding around the LGBT aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because even in this whole Billy Graham rule, I know you mentioned about like the weird feelings being a bisexual person.
Yeah.
I know even I had one of those experiences where I applied for a church planting program, residency program, and I knew it was with a more traditional church in our community. So I knew that there was going to be a billion reasons why they might not accept me. Because I've always, since the beginning of when I started ministry, I had already been openly gay for multiple years. So I just naturally was like, I'm not going to hide it. I'm not doing any of this stuff. I'm just going forward in how to go about it. So I knew that that was naturally going to be it. But then it was so crazy that they kind of operated from the Billy Graham rule.
Yeah.
They operated from this place
and then they don't know what to do with you.
They don't know what to do with
They're
me.
not prepared for this situation at all.
No, because then they were like, that was actually what they reported to me. And it was so kind. And I'm not like, I feel like for what their situation was, they were trying.
You are very patient.
I try to see where people are coming from, the little bit of training or understanding that they have. But they literally were basically like, we can't figure out how you would fit into here.
Yeah.
Like, do you do we have you not be around women, but then also not around men, which doesn't feel
Oh my
right?
God, yeah.
Because like we can't have you not holding the rule that other men are doing, but then, so it just becomes weird. But I think then going back also to what you were talking about with the general thing of like the Catholic Church or the Southern
Yeah.
Baptist Church.
Yeah.
So I think one of the hard parts is I didn't even know that what you're saying about the reports of people going, well, you went looking for it, so you're going to find it. And one of the things that stuck out to me when you were saying that was how it's like, it's not an expectation that there's never going to be experiences of sexual assault or sexual violence in the church in a national scale. Like, but I think what's sad is what you were talking about of it's the cycling. It's the thing of once it is found, it's not like the person is reported, the person is kind of like eliminated from these positions.
Yeah.
No, there's like a weaponization of forgiveness
Yeah.
or like, wanting the best for this person, but then you're not actually stopping it from happening again. You're just perpetuating it.
Right. We have a survivor who works with us a lot on like advocacy, and she did a lot of work in like legislation change in Florida to make the system better for rape and sexual assault survivors. And she was sexually assaulted. Well, she was kidnapped and sexually assaulted. I won't tell the whole story, but from a church campus where she had been a member for years and years, and it was seen as a liability and like a mess to clean up instead of as a opportunity to care for someone in the community. And she wasn't allowed back on campus, and they went to her trial hoping that she would lose because they were more concerned about the liability and the reputation of the church as a safe place than they were actually creating a safe place for people and supporting someone in their own community.
Yeah. That's it's frustrating.
Yeah.
I think that the hard part with it is like this idea of, I don't know if it's a new thing. This is sometimes I process. I don't always like to imagine that the church at some time was not dealing with this, but like the whole situation we're in the American church of every church has a brand. They have a name, they have a brand, they have this essence. And I don't think that's completely new, but I think at the level we're at, it's a really new thing. I do think even if it existed before, I think there's a heightened idea of protecting the brand.
Yeah.
Protecting the brand of the church, protecting the pastor, protecting whatever. And the sad part is it keeps you from dealing not even just with sexual violence, but I think even just with general conflict and general relational difficulty in a really like healthy way, because conflict is messy and going about that requires you to put the victim, to put the community above, the image or the liability.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because our like source material as a religion is not afraid of talking about violence or sexual violence or conflict, incest. It's in there. Like the authors of the Bible didn't seem to feel the need to protect like God's reputation or the religion's reputation. And I think that when the institution is prioritized above the people, that's a problem, and it's standing with oppression. Yeah.
I was actually just reading something of, I'm trying to, if I remember where it was at, I'll put it in the show notes. But it was a commentator explaining how, many times we take the failings of leaders in scripture, such as, ones that I would now consider rape and sexual violence, like Abraham with Hagar, David with Bathsheba. You also have David's daughter. There's multiple different occurrences of people who we would consider like heightened people in faith, like patriarchs of our faith, doing these horrific things. And the sad part is the way that we've many times interpreted it is downplaying the offense that they did.
Mm-hmm.
And this commentator was coming at it from a different thing of like, maybe this is in scripture to show you that even these people can do this stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's actually trying to show you, like, just because someone is this leader of faith
Mm-hmm.
does not keep them from, like, you still have to watch that that's the reality, that that can happen. That
Yeah.
it doesn't put them above reproach in the idea of what actually they might be capable of.
Yes, and I think that's part of the vulnerability of faith communities to abuse from leaders
Yeah.
is it's easy to forget in a setting like that trust always has to be earned. Being charismatic is a key skill set needed by abusers. So just because someone is charismatic doesn't mean that they are safe, and that there doesn't need to be accountability and transparency and like systems in place that are actually going to protect people instead of on the surface level, keep them away from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've talked about a few of these kind of like things. Are there any other challenges you see in faith communities surrounding like dealing with sexual violence in an appropriate way
Yeah. I
or
think
preventing it?
with faith communities, there's the tendency to try to deal with everything like in-house. Like a member of our staff or our congregation was sexually assaulted by another member of the staff and congregation, so we're going to take it upon ourselves to do pastoral care, to encourage forgiveness, to try to bring these people back together, to reconcile, like in that one chapter of the Bible where it's like confront your brother or something.
Yes.
And whether the intentions were good or not, I think that choosing not to bring in professional help or even let the victim know that they have the right to an advocate, that they have the right to report to law enforcement if they choose to, it ends up being more about like reputation management still. And maybe an inflated sense of your responsibility as a pastor is like, I need to fix everybody's problems and help them get along.
100%. Yeah, that whole thing of like dealing, I think of the passage, I feel like the passage that's often used is like, I don't remember what book, letter of Paul's it is, where he's saying, there's disputes among you and you're going to judges of the, outside of the church. Like, why are you doing this? Like, why can't you deal with it in-house in that way? And it's like, this is always where I'm trying to be in the sense of going, okay, in many ways it makes sense. Like, hey, if you and your neighbor or like a person of your church are like fighting over, I don't know, your neighbors, and now you're like having an issue of a tree. It's like, why are you taking this to court? Like, why can't we actually talk through this, as much as possible? But then when you get into sexual violence, this is no longer conflict. This is a justice matter.
Yeah, and there's an element of power here that is different from like a two-sided dispute.
Yes.
And I think unintentionally by responding like to both parties, like, oh, it's just two people in a disagreement and they're on even standing, is going to harm the victim and support the oppressor.
Yeah, it really does play into what I think is very fascinating. And I don't know if it's just we're never educated on it, because I know I never was educated on power dynamics in like ministry degrees or anything. And I don't feel we ever really are, like, given that unless you get some kind of counseling degree, which it actually blows my mind. I never did a Master of Divinity.
Yeah.
I was always told I should have, but then I jumped to doing a Doctor of Ministry. And I always assumed in a Master of Divinity you took some kind of counseling class or There's something, and
Yeah.
I've since learned, unless your program is different, let me know if any listeners, your program is different.
Uh-huh.
But from what I hear from people, often it doesn't. And I'm like, that blows my mind.
Yeah.
Because people are coming to you in these really difficult things. And if you don't even understand the very real power dynamics of a church community,
Yes.
like, then you're going to go about it this way. And so I sometimes don't know if it's like our pastors, and I think it's a mix, our pastors just completely unaware
Mm-hmm.
of what power dynamics are and how everything of how church is set up involves power dynamics often.
Mm-hmm.
In these kind of situations, there's a natural power dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And intimate partner violence and crimes like
Yep.
sexual assault and domestic violence are rooted in power and control.
Power and control.
Yeah.
100%. I was thinking another challenge that was coming to mind with me was like in the kind of preventative space
Yeah.
of it, of the irony. The irony is, well, first of all, before I get to that ironic part, is our lack of being able to talk about sexuality
Yeah.
in general.
Oh my gosh, what a disservice.
All right.
Yeah.
Because we put, first of all, we don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a bigger, ginormous issue that affects so much.
Yeah.
And then within that, we have this kind of expectation that there's grace. You might not be perfect, but get your stuff together.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you talk about it at a celebrate recovery group or
Mm-hmm.
like a support group, but you don't talk about that in general.
Yeah.
Go get healed and then come back.
Yeah.
And the sad part is, and this is where the irony is that I feel like I'm always trying to figure out, because for all of this stuff of how there's often this understanding in church where when sexual violence happens, it feels like the response, the punishment, the kind of how the church deals with it is
Mm-hmm.
always lacking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but then at the same time, what I find is when there is sexual misconduct, maybe that doesn't involve sexual violence or power dynamics, maybe there's an affair or
Yeah.
porn use or just sex outside of the sexual ethics of the church.
Yeah.
There's almost like an extreme punishment.
Oh, yeah. And the pulpit is quick to talk about that, I
Yes.
think.
Yeah. And the reality is, it's like, okay, here we have this overcorrection.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually, I think, leads to this part, because if you can't process your sexuality, you can't process your
Yeah.
desires here, and you can't say something, when it's a thought, when it's a porn use.
Uh-huh.
And then we have these pastors that, let's take aside the sexual violence, they're having an affair, and we're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I couldn't believe it got to here. Well, could they have talked about it
Mm-hmm.
when it was me and my wife aren't getting along?
Yeah. What if they could have said something about it very early on? Would that have
Yeah.
changed the trajectory?
Yeah, because I have run in, obviously, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Mm-hmm.
like in sexual violence, it's very messy in the whole system of like, you do have these repetitive people who are committing sexual violence out of a very predatory way.
Yeah.
You also have some that are coming from they don't understand boundaries, or it's a very lacking of understanding, maybe a way of breaking the boundaries of another person,
Mhm.
moving across the boundaries of another person, maybe
Mhm.
from lack of all of these different kinds of things.
Yeah.
And that in those kinds of cases, it's like, especially like, wow, could this have even been prevented?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you think about education and like the states that have abstinence-based education have the highest rates of teen pregnancy, and there's an education and an access problem that I
Yeah.
think could prevent sexual violence, especially in the cases where someone is not necessarily a predator,
Yeah.
but they need to know.
Yeah.
They need to understand consent. They need to understand coercion in order to have healthy sexual experiences. And those are things that I was not taught about. We're a little bit different in age, but I wonder if we got the similar education where I didn't
Yeah.
know what coercion and consent meant,
No.
but I knew what abstinence was.
Uh-huh.
And I knew what sexual impurity was. I knew what lust was. But I did not receive the really like the practical education that somebody needs to be equipped to have a healthy sexual life.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I did. Like that was why it was very much a journey of me learning stuff. I would also say an aspect of my journey, which I think I've talked about, not on this podcast because this is so new, but previously somewhere I've talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
Of I think another aspect of my journey is I didn't get any of that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like being the youngest of 5 kids, MTV
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Golden Girls was my greatest. Blanche's sexual escapades was
Ooh.
my greatest sex like educator. But I also think there's an aspect, and I don't know if you were ever taught like how to protect yourself against men, or like just to be cautious around men.
Modesty.
Yeah. Because like I know even for me, one of those areas that it felt like I was never given as a gay man,
Mm-hmm.
never given education on, just how to operate in spaces where you are dealing with the male gaze,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like and desire, and how when that is unhealthy, not that it only, obviously my sexual violence doesn't only come from men, but
Mm-hmm.
proportionately,
Mm-hmm.
and how to deal with that. But yeah, I never learned about consent.
Mm-hmm.
I never learned about any of those things. And it's sad. I mean, even beyond that, even just how to protect yourself, like so much of the sexual
Yeah.
education and conversation. And the sad part is, it really, there's such this misunderstanding, I think, that happens in churches,
Mm-hmm.
that how we keep kids from having sex is keeping them ignorant.
Yeah. Yeah, and with the states, like I was saying before, the abstinence-based education through schools,
Yeah.
and the states that didn't have that,
Mhm.
the age that people are having sex stays the same.
Yeah.
But what changes is pregnancy, violence, and STIs. So education isn't the entire solution, but I think that we're not giving people what they need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Because then it's the reality is the more we can equip our kids,
Mm-hmm.
and also create the space for them to talk to us, like we were talking about
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Because then there is an ability, if the same as we're talking about with, church leaders,
Mm-hmm.
of when we can create the space for someone to come talk to us,
Mm-hmm.
we can process with them through what they're thinking of doing. Like if your kid is thinking about having sex,
Yeah.
they're probably going to go behind your back if they have no chance of ever talking to you about it.
Oh, yeah. And I think my parents would say things to me like, you can tell me anything. And they
Yeah.
would never want me to be harmed. They would never
Mhm.
want anything bad to happen to me. But I feel like what I would see from them is a real discomfort with sexuality, like even
Yes.
in movies or in conversation, like a real discomfort. And I think the church, like, has to get over their discomfort with sex and sexuality, because even if you're communicating with your words to young people that they can talk about whatever they want and you want to support them, if your like posture is really shameful about sex and sexuality, it doesn't create the environment needed for young people to talk about what's really going on. Yeah.
And it doesn't actually, I think the other fear part is that if we get comfortable about sex, if we like act like, yeah, whatever, that we're, again, I know a big thing in faith communities is the fear of changing our beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't actually believe it means changing beliefs in any way,
Mm-hmm.
or like what you see as the way of where we're meant to move towards.
Mm-hmm.
The sad part is when it comes to any kind of formation in the church
Yeah.
settings, we have a really comprehensive understanding when it comes to things. Well, maybe not really comprehensive, but we have a much more comprehensive understanding when it comes to issues of emotions and anger. And like,
Mm-hmm.
you understand just because you have an understanding of how someone should deal with their anger.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that they never deal with that perfectly doesn't mean, or like how we engage with these emotions, how we engage with the ways we're dealing with conflict. Like you understand, oh, people are going to be in conflict.
Yeah.
And that's a natural part. And there's a better way to deal with it. There's a way we're moving towards dealing with conflict, but we understand along the way it's going to be rocky. It's going to be difficult. And we can walk along with people when they say, I want to cut off this person out of my life, or I want to do this kind of thing. But we don't have that compassion when it comes to sex.
No, the standard is perfection or nothing.
Or shut up.
Yeah.
Or get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't like one, that some of the education that I received, I don't know if you would have gotten this like as a young man.
I don't know.
But it was like all the different ways that they showed us that if you are sexual with someone in any way, you are giving away a part of like your soul, and you can never repair. So the stakes are so high, and there's not room for, like you said, like compassion or conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess just to kind of shift, but as we shift into talking about the panel and things, because believe me, we could talk about this for a while.
We're getting off track.
Well, no, I mean, the hard part is there's so much here.
Yeah.
Like this isn't even just like a one conversation. This is a whole culture shift. This plays into everything else I talk about on this podcast, because I really believe, for everyone listening, if we can engage with sexuality better, if we can have that vision of me meeting a teen who's wanting to have sex in high school and not being freaked out by the prospect that they might actually have sex, but being able to go, okay, like, how do we make sure it's kind of that harm reduction method in a sense? Like, let's just make sure, you are agreement where you want to be living, how you want to be living, but like, let's make sure in the way you don't have consequences that later on is going to really damage your life more than just sex by itself.
Yeah.
And how do we walk alongside people in that way that actually leads towards the like healing of all of the stuff that we're talking about?
Yes.
But it's a whole thing we could be talking about more. Kind of as we move into it, though, I guess, first of all, because I know we've talked a little bit about some things, is there any clear steps you would give towards specifically church leaders who are wanting to be better equipped for sexual violence, whether that either happens in their church or sexual assault victims or survivors that come to them in that way?
Definitely know your local resources. If you know what county you live in, you can find out if you have a rape crisis center, if there are trained professionals in your area who are prepared 24/7 to provide crisis counseling, guidance, and support to a victim of violent crime. Don't put that all on yourself. Make sure that the person, if someone discloses to you, that you know some resources you can offer. And it's not your decision to make what they do, but know what resources are there, and don't take it upon yourself to be the hero in the situation. And also to learn about what survivors of sexual violence face. It's treated differently than any other crime in our country. If someone came forward and said, I was robbed, no one's like, what were you wearing?
Yeah.
And why didn't you fight back?
Why didn't you have it in a different pocket?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
What were you asking for it?
Yeah.
You just had your cell phone out in your hand and someone grabbed it out of your hand. So there's a real cultural attitude that we all have baked into us, and it's not your fault that you feel that way. This is a product of attitudes and culture and history, and so unlearn those attitudes actively. Understand how trauma impacts people. You don't have to be a mental health therapist to know how to respond better to people who are in trauma or have experienced trauma. If someone tells you that something happened to you, start by believing them. You have nothing to lose by offering an open, listening, and believing attitude to someone who's sharing with you. And there's been extensive research done on false reporting because, like we talked about, the suspicion that when people are saying something happened to them, they have some motivation, they want to get something. And the research studies agree it's a 2 to 10% rate of false reports. Most of them say more like 2 to 6%. And so statistically, you have a really good reason to believe people when they share something with you. Also, they have done research on the way that people heal after disclosing. And if somebody says, I was a victim of a sexual assault, and the response is negative, it actually is more damaging for them than if they had never spoken up at all. And we know with other things, like holding it inside forever is painful, it's heavy, people are alone, and an initial reaction that's negative can be even more damaging than that. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people in your congregation, I'm talking to pastors now, who have been sexually assaulted and will never talk to you about it.
Yeah.
The numbers are very high. It's like 1 in 2 women experience unwanted sexual contact and 1 in 4 men, maybe more. And especially with men, a lot of men will not speak up about it until, on average, in their 50s.
Yeah.
Maybe never. And that can be a lifelong, heavy burden to carry.
I mean, and I would also say sometimes, especially because of the lack of education on consent and stuff, there may be even people in your congregation who don't even realize that what they experienced was
Absolutely.
like sexual assault, sexual violence, like something of that. I know that was my story. Like, it wasn't until years later I was in therapy and we were just talking about some experiences, and my therapist was like, that was coercion.
Yeah.
That was, this kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, like I didn't have any understanding of that,
A lot of people don't.
A lot of people don't. And so then even it's not until you actually get educated on it, like you felt crappy about it, but then you get into self-blame, and you get into like, well, I put myself in that situation, all these kinds of different things. And you don't really realize like, oh no, there is an element of why I'm carrying this.
Yeah.
That is from that aspect. So kind of as we're moving into this, can you tell us, so this event is happening the 27th.
Yes.
I'm really excited for it. And it's not just, there's in person, there's also like virtual connection, right?
Yeah. On the Eventbrite, there's going to be a link that you can just join on your browser virtually. You can ask questions if you want. So anywhere in the world, please.
Amazing. And yeah, so that link will be in the show notes if you want to register for it. If you're in West Palm, there's lunch.
Yep.
Just saying, you can get lunch and education. It's going to be a great time. Who else is on the panel? And like, who do you think, who would you say the panel is for, kind of thing?
The panel is for faith leaders and community members of any religion. On the panel, we have Kristen Ferguson, who is an advocate and medical follow-up coordinator for Palm Beach County Victim Services. One of our therapists, Kelly Dombra, is on the panel. Josh is on the panel. Pastor Keith Case is on the panel. He's a therapist and a pastor. Reverend J.R. Thicklin, who works a lot with family violence, and he's a reverend. And the Dr. Reverend Mary Ellen Cassini. She is a reverend in the Episcopal Church, who has worked a lot with schools and students. So it's a great group, and I really hope that people will come and that we can, like, slowly but surely change our awareness and our attitudes around sexual violence in religious spaces. I remember you say something about how churches improve people's mental health or quality of life or something, outcomes. except for queer people.
Oh yeah, it's a statistic I learned from Bridget Eileen Rivera, who's the author of Heavy Burdens. If anyone wants to check out that book, um, but she says that statistical work shows, and go to her book for the actual source. um, Statistical work shows that religious involvement increases the mental health of every people group except LGBT people. That actually research shows that the more religiously involved LGBT people are, statistically, their mental health goes down.
Yeah.
And their suicidality rises.
Yeah.
Which is just a whole thing of like, well, why is that? And that's what we got to deal with, kind of thing. Yeah.
And I think that a principle of that can be applied for sexual assault survivors.
Yes.
Where if you are in a place of leadership in a church community, people are going to be listening to you when you respond to stories in the news with victim blaming, when you put on the shoulders of people the expectations of their sex lives and the shame around being a victim of sexual violence. So I really encourage you to learn more about this. I'll put some resources in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
And be ready to be a part of the solution for people and help people heal. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
I love that it worked. Guys, the video recorded.
Do you think there's anything we didn't talk about that we got?
I mean, there's so much we could talk about.
Oh,
is there
nice.
anything else like you're in your notes you're like, wow, I really wanted to mention that?
No.
No.
I mean, like you said, there's so much that we could talk about. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Emily, for joining. Getting to be one of my first guests. My first in person. Watch later on when I have like a whole studio kind of thing. We're just going to look back on this and be like, oh my God, remember those days when I was putting this whole setup in our
No, this is the
living
best.
room? This feels right.
Yeah.
So, thank you all for listening. Again, check out the information for the event in the show notes. Also, then check out the resources that Emily is going to have listed there. Just a few last things that I like to say with everyone. Obviously, please listen and subscribe. Leave a review, especially on an Apple podcast. If you want to leave a written review, that would be great. But if you are interested, obviously, if you listen to this and you're like, I need someone to, obviously, if it's related to sexual violence, obviously, I'm not a therapist, but I'd be happy to connect you with a therapist. But also, if you're looking for spiritual direction, maybe processing the faith related around that, go to holyourselves.org. You can contact me about spiritual direction there, cohorts and things. Also, you can follow the Holy Ourselves newsletter monthly on Substack, which is also on the website. And finally, go to patreon.com, our patreon.com/Holy Ourselves, which is where you can support the work of the podcast. You can get bonus episodes, kind of doing a whole solo thing, but I also put on some extra content this month. I talked with Timon about his research he did for his master's on celibate partnerships. All of those kinds of things coming down the funnel, or those things are already happening, but there's a lot more coming down. So continue. I'm so thankful for all of you and looking forward to more. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Josh.
Yay. Love this.